Thanks, Janice, for that good introduction. Truth matters.
सत्य सच जरूरी है
And it matters in every aspect of our life.
और हमारे जीवन के हर जगह पर उसकी जरूरत महसूस होती है
And even in translation, it matters.
और जब हम अनुवाद करते हैं वहां पर भी उसकी जरूरत
I
महसूस
always
होती है
hold translators in high regard.
और जितने भी लोग अनुवाद करते हैं तो मैं उनको बहुत मानता हूँ
And I'll tell you a story about that, why I do that.
और मैं एक कहानी के साथ इसकी शुरुआत करना
They
चाहता हूँ
sometimes hold our lives in their hands.
और कई बार वो अब हमारे जीवन को अपने हाथ में लेते हैं
I tell a story about a Keralite, from my state, went to Nepal when the king was still in power.
और केरला में मेरे देश में मैं आपको कहानी बताता हूँ राजा के पास एक राजा जो है नेपाल गया था
So the Keralite went and stole the treasury of the king of Nepal.
जो मलयाली केरलाइट था वो नेपाल के राजा के ट्रेजरी में जाके चुरा के वहां से धन लेकर आता है
And he was a thief. He stole and he hid the wealth somewhere. The treasuries, everything that was in the treasury. he hid somewhere.
चोर होने के नाते उसने चुराया और कहीं पे जाके उसने रख दिया
And the police, of course, caught him.
पुलिस ने उसको पकड़ा
And they asked him, where is the money? Where are the coins?
और उससे पूछा कि भाई पैसा कहाँ है
And this Keralite didn't know Nepali language or Hindi. He knew only Malayalam.
और उसको ना हिंदी पता था ना मलयालम उसको हिंदी नहीं पता था नेपाली नहीं पता तो उसे केवल मलयालम पता था
To all questions he said, illa, illa.
और हर सवाल के अंत में वो केवल जवाब दे रहा था इल्ला इल्ला
So finally the police got fed up.
और पुलिस उससे परेशान हो गई
They went and told the king, this is what's happening. He doesn't know Nepali, he doesn't know Hindi. He says illa, illa.
और पुलिस भी परेशान हो गई वो आगे जाके बताती है इसको ना नेपाली आती है ना हिंदी आती है बस केवल इल्ला इल्ला करता रहता
The
है
king called this thief.
और राजा ने इस चोर को बुलाया
And he told him, we know you took the money. Please tell us where it is, otherwise you will be killed.
और राजा ने उससे बोला हमें पता है कि तूने चुराया है हमारा पैसा और वो पैसा कहाँ चुरा के रखा है बता दे वरना तेरे को मारा
Again,
जाएगा
the thief is not understanding anything.
और चोर कुछ समझ नहीं पा रहा
He
है
keeps on saying illa, illa.
और फिर वो बोलता है इल्ला इल्ला
So the king understood this is not going anywhere, so he called a translator.
तो उसने राजा ने समझा कि ये तो कुछ कहीं नहीं जा रहा है तो उसने एक अनुवादक को बुलाया
So the translator, translated for the king, and king asked the question, and the thief still said illa, illa.
और ट्रांसलेटर को जब बुला दिया अनुवादक को बुलाया और अनुवादक ने उसकी बात को सुना और यहाँ पे राजा की बात को उसको रखा तब भी वो इल्ला इल्ला कर
He
रहा
said, I
था
didn't take the money.
तो वो बोल रहा था मैंने तो पैसा लिया ही नहीं
So the translator told the king, he's saying he didn't take the money.
और अनुवादक राजा से बोलता है कि ये बोल रहा है कि इसने पैसा नहीं चुराया
So after a long time of questioning, the king finally got so angry and he said, this is his last chance. If he doesn't say where the money is, he will be killed right now. Tell him that.
और राजा ने फिर अंत में आके बोला ये इसका आखिरी मौका है यदि ये सच बोलता है तो जीवित रहेगा नहीं बोलता है तो अभी मर जाएगा
So the translator told the thief, you better tell the truth now. This is your last chance, otherwise you are going to be killed right now.
और तो अनुवादक ने भी यही चीज इस व्यक्ति को बोली कि तेरे पास आखिरी मौका बचा है तू बताता है अन्यथा तू जाएगा
So the thief got scared now.
अब जो चोर है वो पकड़ा वो डर महसूस होने लगा उसे
And he told the translator, well, the money is in such and such a place. Please tell the king not to kill me.
और अनुवादक ने बोला कि पैसा जो है इधर उधर वहां रखा हुआ है उसको बोलना कि मेरे को ना मारे
So the translator went to the king.
और अनुवादक राजा के पास
The
गया
king is very curious and the king asked, what did he say? What did he say?
और बहुत ज्यादा उत्तेजित होकर पूछता है राजा कि क्या बोला उसने
The translator said,
तो इस प्रकार से अनुवादक ने बोला
he says he doesn't care, he didn't take the money. If you kill him, he doesn't care.
तो अनुवादक ने बोला वो कोई परवाह नहीं मुझे मार दो मैंने पैसा लिया ही नहीं तो क्या करना है
That's why I respect translators. They hold our lives in their hands, right? And truth matters, right? When you translate, you have to translate truthfully. So that's why I respect them. Thank you. We just had a good, teaching session from Mr. Kevin.
अभी मिस्टर केविन के द्वारा हमने एक अच्छा सेशन में हम लोग गए थे.
He just talked about leadership and the connection between leadership and truth.
और लीडरशिप और सत्य के विषय में उनके साथ क्या कनेक्शन है वो उन्होंने समझाया.
Our nation has seen an incredible leader who stressed on the importance of leading with truth.
हमारे देश ने भी सत्य के आगे देखा है कि कैसे सत्य से हम लोग देश को आगे चला सकते हैं.
When we talk about truth in this country, we always think of Gandhi ji.
और जब हम सत्य की बात करते हैं तो हमेशा हमारे जहन में गांधी जी ही आते हैं.
We hold him as a highly esteemed leader who talked about truth and set a legacy for us.
गांधी जी के विषय में यदि हम सोचते हैं तो हम जानते हैं कि उन्होंने सत्य से ही हमारे को अगुवाई दी है.
And one of his important focus was on truth.
और एक मुद्दा या फिर एक केंद्र जो उनका हमेशा रहा है वो सत्य के ऊपर ही रहा है.
He considered it so important that he did a research on it and wrote a book on truth.
सत्य उनको इतना प्रभावशाली बना दिया था या उनके ऊपर इतना प्रभाव किया था कि उन्होंने उसकी खोज करी और खोजने के बाद उन्होंने इसके ऊपर एक किताब भी लिखी.
And we know that book, My Experiment with Truth.
और वो किताब का नाम है मेरा अनुभव सत्य के साथ.
Now, Gandhi was not alone among thinkers in the history of mankind to talk about truth.
गांधी जी केवल एक व्यक्ति नहीं थे जिन्होंने सत्य की खोज करी इतिहास में, परंतु ऐसे कई और जने भी थे.
Philosophers of both East and the West considered the pursuit of truth to be the number one priority of their life.
और कई जगहों के philosophers ने सत्य को खोजा है और उन्होंने सत्य के ऊपर अपने जीवन की प्रेरणा रखी है.
But now we live in a world that considers truth to be not really important.
और अब हम समझते हैं, अब इस जगह पे आ गए हैं कि हम हमारी जीवन शैली ऐसी हो गई है कि हम लोग सत्य को इतना प्रभाव नहीं देते या उसकी अहमियत नहीं समझते हैं.
We learn today that truth is just a matter of perspective.
और अब हम इस प्रकार से समझने लगे हैं कि सत्य जो है केवल एक दृष्टिकोण है.
We think that people have different views, so whatever you believe is fine.
और हम लोग ऐसा समझते हैं कि सत्य केवल एक दृष्टिकोण है, जो आपका विश्वास, आपकी जो बात है आपको समझ में आता है वो आपके लिए सच हो सकता है.
Even when truth is presented, some people are not willing to accept it.
और हालांकि सामने सच रखा भी गया हो तो भी लोग उस सच को स्वीकार नहीं
I have
करते
heard
हैं.
a story like this about two flat earth theorists. Flat earth. They believe that the earth is
मैंने
flat.
ऐसी एक कहानी सुनी है जो ऐसे लोग थे, दो ऐसे सज्जन थे जो इस थ्योरी को रखते हैं कि जो पृथ्वी है वो फ्लैट है,
Now,
सीधी है.
this must be news to you that there are still people who believe that the earth is flat.
और आपके लिए शायद ये एक न्यूज़ के तौर पे आ सकता है, परंतु ऐसे लोग हैं जो अभी भी पृथ्वी को समझते हैं कि वो अभी गोल नहीं है परंतु फ्लैट है.
If you actually Google, you will even see websites, where they defend the view that the earth is flat.
और यदि आप गूगल में सर्च भी करेंगे तो ऐसे लोगों के बारे में पता लगेगा कि वो फ्लैट अर्थ को भी समझते हैं और उसको डिफेंड भी करते हैं कि अर्थ दरअसल में सीधी है.
So the story is like this: two of them died and went to heaven.
और ऐसा हुआ कि यही दो जो बोलते हैं कि फ्लैट होता है अर्थ,
And they-
वो मरते हैं और स्वर्ग जाते हैं.
And when they went and saw God, the first question they wanted to clear was about the shape of the earth.
और जब वो पहुंचते हैं ईश्वर के पास तो ईश्वर से सवाल उनका यही रहता है कि पृथ्वी कैसी है.
So they went and asked God, what do you think? God, tell us if the earth is spherical or flat.
और उनसे पूछते हैं ईश्वर से कि आप हमें बताइए कि पृथ्वी जो है सीधी है या गोल है.
God said, of course it is spherical.
और ईश्वर जो है उनसे बोलता है कि हाँ दरअसल गोल है.
Now these flat earth theorists, they were surprised.
और वो जितने ये दोनों थ्योरिस्ट थे ये सोच के अचंभा में पड़ जाते
And then
हैं
they looked at each other.
और एक दूसरे को देखने लगते हैं.
And one said to the other,
और पहला एक दूसरे से कहता है,
dude, even God doesn't know the truth.
और इस प्रकार से कहता है देखो ईश्वर को भी नहीं पता सत्य क्या है.
See, some people can be like that. Even if truth is presented to you, you can still reject it.
और ऐसे कुछ लोग हैं जो सामने सत्य होने के बावजूद भी उसको तिरस्कार
So
करते हैं.
knowing truth is not always good enough.
और सत्य होना या जानना ही केवल काफी
You have
नहीं
to be
है,
willing to accept it and commit to it.
और इसके ऊपर आपको क्या करना है, इसको स्वीकार करना है और इसको स्वीकार करना है।
Truth can be sometimes very evident,
और सत्य जो है सामने दिख सकता है,
but still it can be rejected.
और ये इसको तिरस्कार भी किया जा सकता है।
Now, truth is based on reality.
सत्य जो सामने हो रहा है या दरअसल सच के ऊपर होता है।
We can know truth only if there is a reality.
हम सच को कैसे जान सकते हैं? जब हम सामने देख रहे हैं तभी हम उसको सच मानते हैं।
And only if we know truth, then we can decide what is good for our life.
और जब हम सच को पहचानते हैं तब हमें पता लगता है कि हमारे लिए क्या सही है।
And only if we know what is good, then only we can know what is valuable in our life, what is beautiful in life.
और जब हम सच को पहचानने लग जाते हैं तब हमको पता लगता है कि हमारे लिए क्या सही है और क्या वो बातें हैं जिनको हम मूल्य दें।
So both Eastern philosophers and Western philosophers understood this, and they spoke about truth, goodness, and beauty as an ordered thing.
और हमारे ईस्टर्न फिलोसोफर्स और वेस्टर्न फिलोसोफर्स ने इन बात को समझा और इस सच्चे को जाना और इसकी खूबसूरती को भी पहचाना है।
Both of them understood that truth is fundamental to our life, our leadership, the way we live.
और हर उन दोनों को पता लगा है ईस्टर्न और वेस्टर्न फिलोसोफर्स को कि सच्चे हमारे जीवन में इसकी महत्वता क्या है।
And the order is also important. Truth, goodness, and beauty in Hindi we call, or in Sanskrit we call Satyam, Shivam, Sundaram.
और इसका ऑर्डर भी बिल्कुल महत्वपूर्ण है हमारे लिए। सत्य जैसे बोला गया, सत्यम, गुडनेस यानी शिवम, और खूबसूरती यानी सुंदरम।
Now the beauty we are talking there is not about the external beauty, it's about the internal beauty or value.
और जब हम खूबसूरती की बात करते हैं, वो खूबसूरती जो हमें सामने दिखता है उसकी बात नहीं कर रहे हैं, परंतु अंदर से आप कैसे खूबसूरत हैं, आपकी क्या वैल्यूज हैं, वो आपको खूबसूरत बनाता है।
These three steps are important in every decision we make.
और ये तीन बातें हमारे लिए बहुत अहम है जब हम अपने जीवन के निर्णय हर मोड़ पे लेते हैं।
If we apply these steps in our decision making process, we will have a better quality of life.
यदि हम इनको अपने जीवन में ले लेते हैं तो हमारा जो निर्णय लेना है वो बहुत बेहतरीन होता है।
Let me explain to you or give you an example to show how you can use these three steps to make good decisions.
ये तीन पहलू को हम ध्यान देंगे और मैं आपको मदद करना चाहता हूँ कि कैसे हम इसको इस्तेमाल भी कर सकते हैं।
You all have heard about Socrates, of course.
सोक्रेटिस के बारे में आपने शायद सुना होगा।
Once one of his disciples came and told him, Guru, I have heard this about Diogenes.
और सोक्रेटिस का एक चेला था जो उसके पास आता है, डायोजेनस, और उससे ये कहता है,
And this disciple tells, I heard something about Diogenes, who is actually another philosopher of the same time.
और डायोजेनस के विषय में ये चेला आके कहता है कि मेरे को उसकी एक बात बिल्कुल पसंद नहीं है।
So let me tell about him.
और मैं ये बात आपको बताना चाहता हूँ।
Socrates told him, I would ask you 3 questions.
और चेले को सोक्रेटस कहता है, मैं तुम्हारे से 3 सवाल करता हूँ।
If your answer is yes to any of those 3 questions,
यदि तुम्हारे उन सवालों का कोई भी उत्तर, किसी भी एक का उत्तर हाँ है,
then you can tell me what you heard about Diogenes.
तब तुम मेरे को डायोजेनस के विषय में बता सकते
So
हो।
his first question, he said, are you sure that what you heard about Diogenes is true?
और पहला सवाल ये था कि क्या तुमने डायोजेनस के बारे में जो सुना है, तुम बिल्कुल पक्का यकीन समझते हो कि वो सच है?
Did you verify it?
क्या तुमने उसके बारे में जांच पड़ताल
And
करी?
the disciple said, no, I just heard it from somebody else.
और वो चेला बोलता है, नहीं, मैंने उसके बारे में कहीं से सुना था।
So the reply of Socrates was, whenever you hear something, you need to verify it. You need to see if it is true or not.
और सोक्रेटस उस चेले से बोलता है, सच को पहचानना है, यदि किसी के बारे में तुम्हें कुछ भी जानकारी लेनी है तो उसके बारे में पूरी जांच पड़ताल करो।
So some of our beliefs are not verified.
और कई बार हमारे जो विश्वास है वो कई बार हम उनकी जांच पड़ताल नहीं
It's
करते
important
हैं
that we verify our beliefs.
और हम अपने विश्वासों की जांच पड़ताल करें, ये बहुत जरूरी है।
Find if what we believe is true or not.
और जो हम विश्वास करते हैं क्या वो सही है या नहीं, इसके बारे में
So
भी हमें
Socrates
पता
said,
होना
okay,
चाहिए।
now ask your second question. If your answer is yes, then you can tell what it is.
और फिर सोक्रेटिस उससे बोलता है, चलो तो अपना दूसरा सवाल पूछो।
Okay, is what you heard a good news?
और क्या तुमने जो सुना वो एक अच्छी खबर है?
And the disciple said no.
और वो चेला कहता नहीं, मुझे तो अच्छी खबर नहीं
So
मिली।
Socrates said, if it is not good, then why should you tell it to me?
तो सोक्रेटिस कहता है, यदि अच्छी खबर नहीं लाए हो तो मुझे क्यों बता रहे हो?
Who wants to hear a bad news?
तो मेरे पास समय नहीं है आपकी बुरी खबर सुनने का।
So our goodness has to be based on truth.
तो हमारी जो अच्छाई है वो सत्य के ऊपर निर्भर होने चाहिए।
It is truth that tells us if something is good or not.
ये सच्चाई ही है जो हमें बता सकती है कि ये कोई भी बात है वो अच्छी है या नहीं।
If we do not have truth as a foundation,
यदि हमारे सच्चाई हमारी नींव नहीं है
we will
तो
not be able to decide what is good and what is bad.
तो हम ये नहीं समझ पाएंगे कि हमारे लिए क्या सही है क्या गलत है।
If truth is not our foundation,
यदि सच्चाई हमारी नींव नहीं है
we will not be able to tell if Gandhi was a better person or God said who shot him to death was a better person.
तो हम ये नहीं समझ पाएंगे कि गांधी जी एक भले व्यक्ति थे या वो व्यक्ति जिन्होंने उनको गोली से मारा।
That's why truth is foundational, but then truth tells us what is good.
और इसी के कारण सच हमारी नींव रखती है और वही हमको आगे बढ़ाती
So
है।
it's important that we have a good foundation to decide what is good for our life.
इसलिए हमारे लिए बहुत जरूरी है कि हमारी जो नींव है वो सही जगह बने।
So Socrates said, okay, now you ask your third question.
फिर सोक्रेटिस ने उनसे कहा, चलिए मेरे से तीसरा सवाल पूछिए आप।
Is what you're going to say of any use to you or to me or to Diogenes?
और जो आप तीसरा सवाल मुझसे करने जा रहे हैं उस सवाल से क्या मुझे कुछ लाभ होगा या आपको कुछ लाभ होगा या डायोजेनस से कुछ लाभ होने वाला
The
है?
disciple said no.
तो चेले ने कहा नहीं।
So Socrates then said, if what you're going to say is of no use to you, no use to me, no use to Diogenes, why should you tell it?
तब इस प्रकार से वो चेले से बोलते हैं, यदि मेरे लिए उसका कोई उपयोग नहीं है, तुम्हारे लिए कोई उपयोग नहीं है और डायोजेनस के लिए कोई उपयोग नहीं है, तो क्यों बताना चाहते हैं आप?
There is no benefit to anyone.
तो किसी का कोई लाभ ही नहीं हो रहा है तो क्यों बताना है?
So we benefit from things that are based on truth, things that are good, good, and that's what gives meaning to our life.
और हमारा जो जीवन है उसकी नींव का आधार सत्य होता है और वही सत्य हमारे जीवन को मूल्य देता है।
Now when we live our life every day,
जब हम जीवन को प्रतिदिन जीते
we
हैं
don't necessarily think about these steps.
और इन कदमों को हम नहीं देखते
But
हैं
some of these things are deep rooted in our hearts. It's written in our heart.
और कुछ बातें जो है हमारे हृदय में बैठी रहती हैं।
We have all heard about Mother Teresa who made West Bengal her home.
और मदर टेरेसा के बारे में हमने कईयों ने सुना होगा जिन्होंने पश्चिम बंगाल को अपना घर बनाया था।
Now Mother Teresa and Princess Diana died in the same week in September 1997.
और प्रिंसेस डायना और मदर टेरेसा एक ही हफ्ते में सितंबर के महीने में गुजरी थी।
Now one of the magazines the following week that came out had a split cover page. One of the magazines that came up next week had a split cover page. Cover page, two pictures.
और एक मैगजीन जो उस समय आई थी उसमें मैगजीन का जो कवर था उसका एक स्प्लिट कवर था।
Half of it was Mother Teresa's picture.
आधा मदर टेरेसा का तस्वीर थी
And the other half was Princess Diana's.
और दूसरी थी प्रिंसेस डायना।
Now Mother Teresa's picture looked, in that picture she looked fragile and weak and aged.
और जिस तस्वीर में मदर टेरेसा थी वो बुजुर्ग लग रही थी और कमजोर लग रही थी।
She was wearing a very simple white cloth.
और साधारण सी साड़ी सफेद साड़ी उन्होंने
On
पहनी
the other
थी।
side, Princess Diana looked elegant, royal.
और प्रिंसेस डायना अच्छे कपड़ों में, अच्छे वस्त्र में पहनी, अच्छी लग रही थी,
young and beautiful in the sight of the world.
और अंदर और बाहर से दोनों से खूबसूरत महसूस दे रही थी।
So one of the teachers, he took this magazine to his class.
और एक टीचर वो मैगजीन को क्लास में लेकर
And he
गए
showed this picture to his class and asked his students whose life was more beautiful.
और वो मैगजीन ले जाके टीचर जो है क्लास में दिखाते हैं, बोलते हैं किसका जीवन ज्यादा खूबसूरत था।
The answer was unanimous.
और सबका उत्तर एक साथ ऐसा आया।
We don't have to even say what was the answer, right? We all know. Everybody answered Mother Teresa's life.
सबने ये उत्तर दिया मदर टेरेसा।
Because we know in our heart what is actually more beautiful.
तो हमें पता है हमारे हृदय में भी कि क्या चीज ज्यादा खूबसूरत है।
Her life was more beautiful or more valuable because it was based on goodness.
और उनका जीवन ज्यादा खूबसूरत था क्योंकि उनका जीवन अच्छाई पर निर्भर था।
And her goodness was based on truth.
और उनकी अच्छाई सच्चाई के ऊपर निर्भर थी।
So when your life is based on truth, goodness and beauty, real value, then your life becomes of Satyam Shivam Sundaram.
जब आपका जीवन सत्य पर निर्भर हो जाता है और जो वैल्यू रखता है तो आपका जीवन सत्यम शिवम सुंदरम हो जाता है।
But when we live in a world with conflicting claims on truth,
और जब हम ऐसे संसार में रहते हैं जिसमें सच्चाई के ऊपर कई पहलू हो जाते हैं,
how do we decide what is true?
तो हम कैसे समझेंगे कि सच क्या है?
Because we hear different things about truth.
हमने सच के बारे में कई बातों को सुना है।
And even in our own country there are different philosophers who talk different things about truth.
और हमारे ही देश में सत्य के विषय में कई बातों को कई फिलोसोफर्स कई प्रकार के बात रखते हैं।
But Gandhi ji left a good legacy for us about truth.
परंतु गांधी जी हमारे को सत्य के विषय में काफी अच्छी बात बता के गए।
And because of the good teachings he left and the influence he left.
और अच्छी जो बात वो सिखा के गए और जो बातें रख कर गए हैं।
When the founders of this nation got together and decided to make a motto or come up with a motto for our nation.
और जिसके कारण हमारे देश का एक मोटो निकल के आया है।
When they came to vote on what should be the motto of the country.
और वो मोटो जो निकल के आया हमारे देश का,
there were two suggestions they voted on.
और दो बातें सुझाव रखे गए थे।
The first one was कर्म एवं जयते, work alone triumphs.
एक था काम ही
And the second one was satyam evam jayate.
और दूसरा था सत्यमेव जयते।
And because of the influence of Gandhi, the more votes were cast on Satyam Evam Jayate, and that's our national motto now.
और इन दोनों के ऊपर जब चर्चा की गई तो सबसे ज्यादा वोट्स जो है सत्यमेव जयते के ऊपर आए क्योंकि गांधी जी के काम को सबने सराहा था।
I think Gandhi had taught his disciples well then.
और अपने चेलों को उन्होंने उस समय अच्छी शिक्षा दी।
We see this motto everywhere in India now.
और ये मोटो हम लोग हर जगह देखते हैं।
It's on the currency that we use.
और ये जो हम इस्तेमाल करते हैं हमारे रुपयों में भी हम देखते हैं।
Even if the currency is not to do fraud or to bribe somebody, it still says Satyam Evam Jayate.
चाहे आप पैसे का इस्तेमाल अच्छे के लिए करें चाहे किसी और के लिए करें, फिर भी पैसे में जो लिखा हुआ है, रुपये में जो लिखा है वो लिखा है सत्यमेव जयते।
But historically speaking, we value truth as the number one priority in this country.
और ऐतिहासिक रूप से देखें तो हम लोग यहाँ पर बैठे हैं ये समझते हुए कि हम लोग सच्चाई के ऊपर जीत पाए हैं, इसके ऊपर हम वैल्यू रखते हैं।
And as individuals of this country that's committed to truth, we all have a responsibility to find what is truth and follow it.
और जैसे हम इस बात को समझते हैं, हमारी ये हमको सत्य के पीछे जाना चाहिए और सत्य को पहचानना चाहिए।
Now, some people understand or some people think Gandhi was a relativist who said that truth is relative. Some people think that Gandhi said truth is relative.
और कई लोग समझते थे कि सत्य सबके लिए भिन्न हो सकता है।
But that's not really true.
परंतु ये सच नहीं है।
Gandhi said like this: even if you are a minority of one, the truth is the truth.
और फिर भी उन्होंने इस प्रकार से कहा था, यदि आप एक ही सज्जन क्यों ना रहें और सत्य पे खड़े हैं तो सत्य ही रहेगा।
Let me repeat that. Even if you are a minority of one, the truth is the truth.
और भीड़ की संख्या में चाहे आप एक ही क्यों ना हो,
Now
सत्य तो सत्य ही रहेगा।
That doesn't sound like relativism.
तो ये बात ऐसा नहीं है कि सब सत्य अलग अलग हो, इस प्रकार से बोल
Let
रहा
me
हूं।
give you an example. If you are in a classroom
यदि आप एक क्लास में बैठे हैं
and the teacher asks, what is the shape of the earth?
और आपके टीचर आपसे सवाल करते हैं कि पृथ्वी किस आकार की है,
Even if only 1% of the class says it is spherical,
और यदि 1% ही क्लास में लोग बोलें कि वो गोल है,
and the majority says it's flat,
और बाकी सब बोलें कि सीधी है बिल्कुल,
the truth remains the truth that it is spherical.
तो भी सत्य तो एक ही है कि पृथ्वी गोल ही है।
So Gandhiji was not really in favor of arguing that truth is just a matter of opinion.
और गांधी जी किसी के सुझाव के ऊपर नहीं बैठे थे कि इसका सच ये होगा या उसका सच ये होगा।
To make it clear, he said another sentence like this.
तो इसको और अच्छे से समझाने के लिए उन्होंने एक और बात
In
कही,
matters of conscience,
यदि हमारा
about truth, in matters of truth, let's say, in matters of truth,
सत्य के विषय में
the law of majority has no place.
सत्य को समझने के लिए आप चाहे जितनी बड़ी भीड़ क्यों ना कर लें, उसका कोई वजूद नहीं
So
है।
we don't decide what is true by looking at what majority thinks or believes.
सत्य को समझना ऐसा नहीं है कि इतनी बड़ी भीड़ की संख्या कुछ भी बोल रही है और उसको सच मान लिया जाए।
Gandhiji did not consider truth to be limited to this world, in fact.
और गांधी जी ने सत्य को केवल इस संसार तक ही सीमित नहीं किया।
He understood truth to be connected to God, the divine.
और सत्य उन्होंने ईश्वर के साथ जोड़ा है।
So he said like this.
उन्होंने इस प्रकार से कहा,
God as truth has been for me a treasure beyond price.
और ईश्वर सत्य के मानंद यानी सत्य को लेकर मेरे लिए वो खजाना है।
May he be so to every one of us.
और वो ऐसा खजाना है जिसको जो खरीदा नहीं जा सकता, और मैं आशा करता हूँ वो हम सब के लिए भी ऐसा
So
हो।
Gandhi himself said truth was the number one priority or pursuit in his life.
और वो उनके लिए सत्य सबसे मुख्य बात थी जीवन में खोजने के लिए।
And he wished that every one of us will follow the same suit.
और वो उनकी इच्छा थी कि हम में से हर एक जन वो सत्य की खोज
And
करे।
Gandhiji also considered truth to be the absolute, the best thing in the world.
और उनके लिए सत्य संपूर्णता को दिखाता है कि इसके अलावा कुछ है ही नहीं।
That's why on another occasion he said like this.
और दूसरे बात में उन्होंने इस प्रकार से कहा,
There is no God higher than the truth.
और उन्होंने इस प्रकार से कहा कि सत्य के अलावा कोई बड़ा ईश्वर है ही नहीं।
Let me repeat that. There is no God higher than the truth.
सत्य के अलावा कोई बड़ा ईश्वर है ही नहीं।
Gandhiji believed, in fact, truth to be the highest of all gods, so truth to be God.
और सत्य को उन्होंने ईश्वर के तुल्य रख दिया।
No wonder by our founding leaders considered truth to be the number one priority of this country and the motto of this country.
हमारे देश को का वजूद बनाने वाले कितनी अहमियत रखते थे सत्य के
So
ऊपर।
like Gandhi said, if truth is the highest of all gods,
यदि सत्य सबसे बढ़कर ईश्वर है या ईश्वर से बढ़कर है,
do we pursue that truth as the highest priority of our life
तो
too?
क्या हम उस सत्य की खोज करते हैं?
Now, on the other hand, one may wonder if Gandhi had a full understanding of truth or not.
और मैं दूसरा एक पहलू देखता हूँ इसमें, क्या गांधी जी को भी सत्य की पूरी जानकारी थी?
Now, thankfully, I don't have to say an answer to that.
और मेरे को इसका जवाब देने की जरूरत तो नहीं है,
Because Gandhiji himself said that I do not know all the truth.
और उन्होंने खुद से कहा था कि मेरे को सब सत्य नहीं मालूम।
Gandhiji said that God alone has absolute truth, that truth is an attribute of God.
और उन्होंने कहा था कि सत्य परमेश्वर का एक पहलू है।
Gandhi also said nobody in this world possesses absolute truth.
और उन्होंने ये भी कहा था कि किसी के पास भी वो पूर्ण सत्यता नहीं है।
So Gandhi said, relative truth is all what we know.
और हमें सत्य के अंश पता है।
So Gandhiji, by that statement, did not mean that truth is relative.
वो सत्य अंश के तौर पे एक पहलू है, हमें पता है एक अंश सत्य को पहचानते हैं, ऐसा नहीं बोल रहे हैं।
But what he meant is that what we know is limited truth.
और वो इस प्रकार से कहना चाहते हैं जो हमारी जानकारी है सत्य के विषय में, हमारी जानकारी की सीमा है।
But he said there is an absolute truth and we should pursue that truth.
पर उन्होंने ये कहा था कि एक सत्य है जो वही सत्य है, वो उन्होंने कहा था।
Now Gandhi lived in a world, that likes stories.
और वो ऐसे संसार में रहे जहाँ उनको कहानियाँ बहुत पसंद
And
थी।
our time, our culture, our society, we all like stories.
हम में से हर एक को कहानियाँ बहुत पसंद होंगी।
And our thinking and our beliefs are usually shaped by stories.
और हमारी सोच, हमारी धारणा, हमारे विश्वास की जो बुनियाद है वो कहानियों पे आधारित होती है।
In spite of having this high understanding of truth as the highest of all gods,
हालांकि सत्य को पहचानने के विषय में हमारी को जितनी जानकारी क्यों ना हो,
like anyone else, Gandhi also was influenced by his culture and his time and the stories.
और गांधी जी को भी उनकी कहानियों के उनके समय में जो कहानियां चल रही थी, जो बातें चल रही थी, जो समाज में हो रहा था, उनसे वो काफी ज्यादा प्रभावित थे।
One of those stories is the famous story of the elephant and the blind man who went to find out what an elephant is like.
और आपको सबको वो कहानी पता होगी, वो हाथी की और 4 अंधे लोगों की जो पहचानना चाहते हैं कि दरअसल हाथी कैसा दिखता है।
The story goes like this: few blind men went to experiment an elephant.
और कुछ अंधे लोग जाते हैं और पहचानना मांगते हैं कि हाथी किस प्रकार का होता है।
One touches the leg of the elephant and says the elephant is like a tree or a pillar.
और एक जना उसका पैर पकड़ता है और वो कहता है ये तो खंबे के समान है।
Another one touches the belly of the elephant and says elephant is like a wall.
और एक जना पकड़ता है उसका पेट हाथी का और बोलता है ये तो दीवार के समान दिख रहा है।
Another one touches the ear of the elephant and says elephant is like a fan.
और एक पकड़ता है कान, छूता है कान तो बोलता है तो पंखे की तरह है।
Another one touches the tail of the elephant and says elephant is like a broom.
और एक जना पकड़ता है उसका पूंछ तो बोलता है अरे ये तो नहीं झाड़ू की तरह है।
So they all come up with different explanations of elephant.
और सब कोई अलग अलग अपनी सोच, अपनी दृष्टिकोण को सामने लाके प्रस्तुत करते हैं।
Some stories help us understand some mysteries.
और कुछ कहानियां हमारे को कुछ सत्य बताती
But
हैं।
some stories can be misleading too.
परंतु कुछ कहानियां हमें सत्य से बिल्कुल अलग कर लेती
This
हैं।
story has been used by many people to make kind of an absolute argument to prove that relativism is true.
इसको बहुत तरीकों से इस्तेमाल किया गया है कहानी को, और ये बताने के लिए कि जो सत्य मेरा है वही सत्य सही है करके इसको बताया गया है।
People have even done graduate level research on this story and have written thesis literally.
इसी कहानी को रखते हुए कई लोगों ने इस पे रिसर्च भी कर डाली है।
So we need to decode the story.
तो हमें इसी कहानी को फिर समझना है, खोल के समझने का प्रयास
Let's
करना
try
है।
to do that. In this story we see two groups there. Basically two categories.
हम इसी यदि कहानी को देखेंगे तो हमें 2 प्रकार के लोग पता लगते
The
हैं।
elephant and the blind man.
तो 2 प्रकार पता लगते हैं, पहला हाथी और दूसरा है लोग।
But actually there are 2 other groups in the story.
परंतु देखा जाए तो 2 और समूह इसमें देखे जा
That's
सकते हैं।
not evident, but is there.
हालांकि वो दिख नहीं रहा है कहानी में, परंतु वो है।
One is the narrator who tells the story.
पहला वो है जो कहानी बता रहा है,
The other one is the people who are hearing the story.
और दूसरा वो है जो सुन रहे हैं इस कहानी
You have to understand the one who narrates the story knows what an elephant is like.
और आपको ये बात समझनी है जो कहानी दरअसल बता रहा है उसे पता है हाथी कैसा
And
दिखता
the
है,
people who are hearing also know the truth and know what an elephant is like.
और जो सुन रहे हैं उनको भी पता है कि दरअसल हाथी किस प्रकार का होता
If the
है।
narrator and the hearers do not know the story, or do not know what an elephant is like,
और यदि जो कहानी बता रहा है और वो जो कहानी सुन रहे हैं उन्हें इस कहानी के बारे में नहीं पता,
the story makes no sense.
तब तो कहानी के उनके लिए भी मतलब नहीं आएगा।
Because nobody knows an elephant is, what an elephant is like
तो उनको
actually.
पता ही नहीं लगेगा कि हाथी किस प्रकार का होता है।
We'll be just perplexed. What is an elephant then? Broom or pillar or tree? What it
तो
is?
अंत में सब लोग यही सोचेंगे तो हाथी किस प्रकार का होता है, क्या खंबा होता है, क्या झाड़ू होती है, क्या दीवार होता है।
And that's why he said the narrator knows the truth.
तो इसलिए मैंने कहा बताया था आपको जो कहानी बताने वाला है उसको सत्य की पूरी जानकारी है।
And we also know the truth. What an elephant is like.
और अब हम जो यहाँ बैठे हैं हमको भी तो पता है कि हाथी किस प्रकार का
But
होता है।
stories like this misguide us to think, that we do not know the truth.
और ऐसी कहानी यदि हमारे सामने प्रस्तुत की जाए तो हमको तो लोग गुमराह कर देंगे कि हाथी दरअसल किस प्रकार का होता है।
That's why I said some of the truth, they are evident, they are now hard, but sometimes we don't make use of it.
और इसलिए मैंने आपको बताया कि ये सत्य हमारे सामने होने पर भी दिखता तो है पर हम इसको सत्य नहीं समझते हैं।
Some truth is inescapable. It is there, but we need to look for it.
और कुछ सत्य ऐसे हैं जिससे हम बचकर नहीं जा सकते, कहीं जा नहीं सकते, वो हमें दिखता है पर हम उसको पहचान नहीं पाते।
Like I said, through the story, the professors or advocates of the story, they try to prove that truth is relative. Absolutely relative.
और जो इस कहानी को पढ़ाते हैं या इसको विश्वास करते हैं तो वो यही बताना चाहते हैं कि सत्य दरअसल एक तरफा या एक दृष्टिकोण ही है।
Now Gandhi said, only God knows the absolute truth.
और गांधी जी ने इस प्रकार से कहा था कि सत्य ईश्वर माने बिल्कुल एब्सोल्यूट है।
Which is true. Only God knows absolute truth because like Gandhi said, absolute truth is God himself. Truth is the highest of all gods.
और केवल ईश्वर को पता है कि दरअसल सत्य क्या है।
So Gandhi is right that we cannot know truth in a strict sense of philosophy.
और यदि फिलॉसफी को कहा जाए तो हमें भी सत्य को पूरा पहचान उसकी नहीं कर पाएंगे।
But what if the narrator comes and tells us the truth?
और पर यदि जो कहानी बताने वाला है हमारे पास आए और बताए कि सत्य क्या है तो
what if God, who is the absolute truth or the highest of all gods, became a man and came and told us the truth?
और यदि वही ईश्वर जो इंसान बन के हमारे बीच में आ जाए और सत्य की घोषणा करे तो
Now in the history of mankind we have seen so many good teachers like Gandhiji and Confucius and all others who taught a good number of things about truth.
और सत्य के विषय में इतिहास में गांधी जी के अलावा कन्फ्यूशियस और कई लोगों ने सत्य के विषय में बताया।
Listen, they all talk about truth.
उन्होंने सत्य के विषय में बताया।
But Jesus came and said, I am the truth.
परंतु यीशु ने कहा मैं ही सत्य हूँ।
Jesus did not teach about truth.
उन्होंने सत्य के बारे में नहीं बताया कि ये सत्य है।
He said, I am the truth.
उन्होंने कहा कि मैं ही सत्य हूँ।
It's something like what Gandhi meant. Truth is actually a person. It's the highest of all gods.
और उन्हें जैसे गांधी जी ने बोला था कि ईश्वर ही सत्य है तो यीशु ने कहा मैं सत्य हूँ।
So what does it mean when Jesus said, I am the truth?
तो इसका तात्पर्य क्या हुआ कि जो यीशु ने कहा कि मैं ही सत्य हूँ।
Let me give you an example. I'm holding a remote in my hand.
और मैं आपको उदाहरण देना चाहता हूँ, मेरे पास एक रिमोट है।
And if I say, I'm holding a child in my hand. Yeah.
और मैं आपको दिखाऊं और ये कहूँ कि मेरे हाथ में बच्चा है।
You will immediately say that's not true, right?
आप सबका क्या बात रहेगी? आप सब यही बोलेंगे क्या बोल रहे हैं आप? ये गलत बोल रहे हैं आप।
Right? Because my statement did not agree with what is reality in my hand.
क्योंकि मैंने जो बात कही और जो मेरे हाथ में था उस बात में कोई सत्य नहीं था।
So truth is when there is a complete agreement with what I say and what is reality.
और सत्य क्या है? जो मैं कहता हूँ और जो मेरे हाथ में है या मेरे सामने है वो दोनों एक से हैं तभी तो वो सत्य कहलाएंगे।
When Jesus came and said, I am the truth, he meant I am the exact representation of God.
और जब यीशु ने कहा मैं सत्य हूँ तो वो ये कह रहे थे कि जैसा ईश्वर है वैसा मैं ही हूँ।
So he was not teaching about truth, he claimed to be the truth.
उन्होंने ये नहीं कहा कि सत्य ऐसा है, परंतु वो कह रहे थे कि वो ही सत्य है।
And he said, I am the only way.
और उन्होंने कहा मैं ही एक मार्ग हूँ,
And I'm the only way to eternal life.
अनंत जीवन के लिए मैं ही वो मार्ग हूँ।
Now that's a unique claim that Jesus made.
और वही एक क्लेम है जो यीशु ने कहा।
Now, like I said, in the history of mankind, so many people have taught many good things about truth, just like Gandhi taught about truth.
और इतिहास में कई लोगों ने सत्य के विषय में कई बातें
But
कही,
only Jesus claimed to be the truth and the way and life.
परंतु यीशु ने ही सत्य के विषय में कहा वही सत्य है
Now,
और जीवन
as
है।
seekers of truth, you have three options that Jesus leaves you.
यदि आप सत्य की खोज करते हैं तो आपके पास भी
To respond to the claim of Jesus, you have three options.
आपके पास तीन ऑप्शंस हैं उस सत्य को स्वीकार करने के लिए या फिर बोलने के
You
लिए।
can think Jesus said, a lie. He's a liar.
आप कह सकते हैं कि यीशु झूठ बोल रहा है,
He was not the truth.
वो झूठ
He was not the truth.
वो सत्य नहीं था,
He was not the exact representation of God.
और वो परमेश्वर नहीं था,
You can write of him as a liar.
और उसको बोल सकते हैं कि वो झूठा था।
But we know the great leaders of this country, the great philosophers of this country, they all consider Jesus to be a great teacher.
और इस संसार के लोग जितने भी बड़े टीचर्स थे उन्होंने भी यही बोला कि यीशु एक अच्छा टीचर था।
Even Gandhi ji followed the teachings of Jesus Christ.
गांधी जी खुद ही यीशु मसीह की कई शिक्षाओं पर चलते थे।
Gandhi ji is actually more known for his teaching on non-violence.
और यदि उनको देखा जाए तो नॉन वायलेंस के ऊपर उनका जीवन चलता था।
Now, where did he get that idea from?
वो सोच उनके पास कहाँ से आई?
We live, we have famous epics in our country, which is about two wars, Mahabharata and Ramayana.
हमारे पास दो कहानियां हैं, एपिक्स हैं, जो महाभारत है और रामायण है।
In this country, we actually believe about fighting and winning.
और हम लोग समझते हैं कि हमें युद्ध करना है तभी जीत होती है।
Leaders like Gandhi ji took this kind of ideas from Jesus and his teachings, and they considered him a wonderful teacher.
और फिर गांधी जी जैसे अगुवे ने यीशु मसीह की वो कहानी को लिया कि हमें नॉन वायलेंस का रास्ता लेना है, और देखिए वो किस तरह
So you
बढ़े।
cannot just write of Jesus as a liar because of the good teachings he gave.
और क्योंकि वो अच्छी शिक्षा देते हैं इसलिए ये कहना कि वो झूठे हैं वो तो गलत हो जाएगा।
But you have that option.
पर आपके पास वो ऑप्शन है।
The second option is you can think Jesus was a lunatic, a madman.
और दूसरा आप सोच सकते हैं कि यीशु पागल था।
He made these tall claims of being truth and the way and life,
और वो बड़ी बड़ी बातें करके गया यीशु,
and because of that he was killed.
और उसके बाद क्या हुआ? उनको मार दिया गया।
Now you have to think that this man who taught this highest truth about non-violence and forgiveness and humility and all those things like servant leadership was a madman.
और आप ऐसा सोच सकते हैं बहुत अच्छी शिक्षा दी, कैसे नम्रता से सच्चाई से जीवन जीना चाहिए, वो सब देने के बाद अंत में तो वो मर गया, तो पागल था।
All those good teachings came from this a man who was mad or lunatic.
और वो सारी अच्छी जो शिक्षाएं थी वो तो एक पागल व्यक्ति से आ रही हैं। आप ऐसा सोच सकते
But
हैं,
you have that option.
वो भी आपके पास है।
So he was a liar or a lunatic, or he was the third option is, or he was what he claimed to be, what he claimed to be the truth.
या तो वो झूठा है या वो पागल है, पर या फिर वो है जो वो बोलता है वो है।
And that's a choice we all have to make.
और ये चुनाव हम सबको करना है।
So what is your response to Jesus' claim that he is the truth?
आप क्या सोचते हैं जो यीशु ने अपने विषय में कहा है, वो आप क्या सोचते हैं? आप क्या चुनाव
You
करते
think he was a
हैं?
liar or a lunatic, or he was true indeed?
आप क्या सोचते हैं कि वो झूठा था या फिर वो पागल था या वो अच्छी शिक्षा देने वाला था?
Gandhi ji said, I pursue truth as the highest goal of my life.
और मैं सत्य को खोजता चलता हूँ, मेरे जीवन का यही एक उद्देश्य है, गांधी जी ने कहा।
And he said, I hope that you all will do the same.
और वो ये भी कह गए थे कि मैं चाहता हूँ कि आप लोग भी ऐसा ही करें।
And that's what I would encourage you today also, to pursue truth as the highest priority of your
और
life.
मैं भी आपसे यही गुजारिश करना चाहूँगा कि आप इस सत्य की खोज में रहें।
Thanks for listening to me. Satyam evam jayate. Truth alone triumphs. God bless.
धन्यवाद, आपने मेरे को सुना। सत्यमेव जयते।
Now we have a few minutes left for some questions. If you have any questions, you can ask.
ये समय रहेगा कुछ सवालों के लिए। आपकी तरफ से जो सवाल हैं आप लिख रहे थे, मैं समझता हूँ कुछ सवाल आपके पास होंगे। हमारे स्पीकर यहाँ पे हैं, आप अपने सवालों को रख सकते हैं। इंग्लिश में रखते हैं तो मुझे खड़े होने की ज़रूरत नहीं है, और हिंदी में करते हैं तो मैं खड़ा हूँ यहाँ पे। तो आप अपने अपने सवाल रख सकते हैं। इस समय कुछ क्षण हमारे पास सवालों के लिए रहेंगे।
If you don't want to ask, you can write and give. Okay, that's fine too. So.
आपके पास लेटर पैड, राइटिंग पैड है, उसमें आप लिखकर भी अपने सवालों को दे सकते हैं।
Yes, sir.
Can you please? Thank you for emphasizing on the truth, and that is a very important need of our nation today, as we see not only in our nation but the world across. Could you please relate truth to integrity and honesty, because it relates to our life? I'm sure that when Mahatma Gandhi spoke about truth, he related to the life of truth. I hope you are able to get me on this.
Sure, thank you. It's a good question. Janice has left, so I assume that we'll just go with English for that question. Very good question and very important question. Like I said earlier, truth is foundational to everything that we do and decide. If you do not know truth, we will not be able to decide what is good. Same is true of when we talk about integrity. Now, when you look at the meaning of integrity, what do you actually mean when we say, you need to have integrity, right? It just means, just like I talked about truth, truth has to be the exact representation of reality. The same way, integrity is when what you say and what you do is in agreement. It integrates. You basically means you walk the talk, right? So it's foundational to truth, being true to your belief and your statement. So now, if you are saying something and if you're doing something, there is no integrity in your life, right? For example, if you say, "I'm a kind man," and if you see somebody suffering on the street, you're not helping that person. You are not a kind man indeed, but you claim to be a kind man, but there's no integrity in what you are saying and what you really is. Right? So integrity is basically that thing that makes both your statement and your life one thing. It integrates right together. So that's truthfulness in life. That truthfulness in real living, in your real walk. So it's connected in the sense that you are true to your own belief and your statement. All right. I hope that answers the question, and that has to do with honesty too. So, good question. Anything else? You can ask some of the questions related to things like this, or truth, or the talk we had. The toughest questions I get is from my son. That's the toughest one. So. Some of them I cannot answer. So otherwise, we are okay with other questions. When your own son asks some question, your children ask some questions, they are tough ones. Yes, you have another question?
I'm sorry, I'm actually not monopolizing anybody's time, but because there are so many leaders here of businesses or maybe other profession, education and all, I'm just trying to reiterate the need of this subject in our nation today, in our nation building today. We are, I feel that it is very appropriate time to have a look at this seriously. And sometimes we think that dishonesty pays, or dishonesty is making profit. But I can tell you, dishonesty is very, very, you can say, causes damage and is very, very, I would say, expensive. Truth is very much related to our economy also. Because we are not truthful, we are paying for it. For example, we go by bus. Please, I'm not trying to give a lecture, but I'm just trying to incite that need that we have a look at it. We think we go by a bus. Actually, we are not only paying for the ticket that takes the bus fare is not for just the running of the bus or payment to the driver only. We are paying for the conductor also. We are paying for his supervisor also, because people will not pay truthfully the fare if there was no conductor. So, so many things are related. We feel that dishonesty is good. So I feel I'm so thankful for this subject and the way you brought out, and from the father of the nation and the foundations that he has given us, and the motto that you have said, Satyamev Jayate.
That's great. Thank you. Thanks for that comments. And like you said, that's very insightful. And like you said, so it affects every aspect of our life, our economy, or the way we live, the way we believe, everything. I have heard a story like this. One man was traveling in a train, similar to your example of the bus. He was traveling in a train, and one passenger, when he was getting off, he tried to take off a bulb from the train. And another person who was in the cabin, said, "Don't do that. That's public property. You don't take that. That's stealing." And he left. He didn't take the bulb. And then after, sometime the next station comes, another passenger is about to get off, and he tries to take off the same bulb. This is a story, okay? But it has a point. So the same man tells you, "Don't take that. Stealing is public property." And he goes again. And the third one, the same thing happens. And finally, this man's turn comes. The last stop. He's alone now. He thinks, now there is nobody else to talk these, thieves. Somebody is going to steal it anyway, so let me take it, and he goes on. Right? So that's why I said, in our currency, it says Satyamev Jayate, and we use the same currency to bribe and to do fraud, right? So that's a sad thing when we don't have integrity. So that's where that comes. If you do not have integrity, then there's no value in saying that we value truth. Right? There's no meaning in it. So that needs to go together, truth, integrity, honesty, and all those things together. Again, truth is foundational, and goodness like integrity and honesty will follow when you value truth as the highest, pursuit of your life. Thanks for that. Any other questions? Otherwise, we will stop. You have something there? I saw somebody writing something. Go ahead. Yeah.
My question is, suppose in the story the narrator in the story that you have shared here, so in that the narrator knows the truth, the listener knows the truth, but what if there is no one who can say us what is the truth? Suppose a common person, a normal person who don't know what is the truth, and there is no one who can guide that what is the truth. So for that person, what will be the actually the truth?
Well, that's a good question and a tough one, right? So here's the thing, when the narrator is telling the truth, if the truth comes from the narrator who is the truth himself, like God himself, then that's a good source for us to know the truth, right? Now on the other side, my comment about some truth being self-evident or in our heart is true about some truth, not about all truth. It's known as, I didn't mention that, but it's known as the law of mankind, or the law of conscience, or the law of nature, or the common sense law. For example, whether something is good or not, right? People can argue both ways and say, well, we do not know, we have no foundation, right? So someone known as C.S. Lewis said like this, let me give you a slab, tell me if it was good or not, or right or wrong, right? What tells you that slab was right or wrong? Because it's in our heart, it's in our conscience, right? So we know, like when we speak about like what Hitler did in Germany, nobody has to tell us that was bad. How do we know it is bad? Because our conscience has some idea of truth, some idea of what is right, what is wrong. If you do not have that in our heart, we will not be able to make that judgment, right? But when that is not enough, when what is in our heart is not enough, that's when you have the narrator telling us what is absolute truth also. So in our heart we know some truth. They are limited, of course, like Gandhi said. But when absolute truth gives us more revelation, that helps us to know the higher levels of truth. Good question, though. Thank you. Looks like we are good. This one, okay. Go ahead. Yeah.
He's kind of shy to ask us.
That's fine.
If a person is wrong in his views but is persistent in calling to be the truth, how should we handle the scenario?
Can you repeat that?
If a person is wrong in his views but is persistent in calling it to be the truth, how should we handle the scenario?
Thank you. Like we said, some people have, these ideas that they hold on to as very dear to their heart. Even if you tell them what is the truth and explain to them and give all the evidence as possible, they will not still believe. In philosophy, that's called the absolute fallacy. Okay, the absolute fallacy is you give all the evidence as possible to anyone, to a person, and try to answer all their questions, clarify all their doubts, and kind of provide concrete evidence, and still that person rejects to believe or accept. That's called absolute fallacy. Right? When someone does that absolute fallacy, all what you can do is to pray for that person. But if somebody is like, we told the example of the flat earth theorist, gets to heaven, even God tells what is the truth, the answer you turn back and say even God doesn't know the truth, right? To that kind of a person, we cannot do anything than, pray for them. And there are people like that. The example I gave is just for a joke, but it's true that there are people like that. I have heard a joke like this, dead bodies don't bleed, right? Okay, it's a joke like this. So there was a man one day, one morning he wakes up and he says, I am dead. Right? I mean, he's walking, talking and all, he says, I'm dead. There are people like that, right? So his wife got worried. She took him to a psychologist for counseling, and the psychologist tried to give him, all kinds of arguments and tell him, that he's not dead, he's alive, all good, everything. He doesn't accept. Finally, the psychologist takes him to a morgue and shows him a dead body. Okay, and then pokes the dead body, and there's no bleeding, and tells, see, the dead body doesn't bleed. You see that? And he said, oh, okay, dead body doesn't bleed. Okay, then this psychologist immediately turned to this man who claims to be dead and poked on his hand, with a pin. And he started bleeding, and the psychologist said, see, you're bleeding, you're not. And this man who was claiming that he's dead, he said, see, doctor, actually the dead body bleeds. See, here is evidence. Right? Some people can be like that. You give them all evidences, prove everything, they will still reject the truth. And that's absolute fallacy. You cannot do anything other than pray for them. Right?
Thank you, sir.
All right. Janice, it's time up. It's your call. Okay.
Hello, sir. You have mentioned truth is connected to God. So, in a world where people are following different religions, where we meet people who follow different gods, how do you pursue truth in that? Because if truth is connected to God, different gods, different truths, then how do you pursue? You said you have to pursue truth as the highest priority of our lives. So, different gods, different truths, and how do you pursue truth as the highest priority in your everyday life?
Good question. Thanks for that question. And you are right about the comments you made during your question. If we have different gods, how do we decide what is the truth, right? And that's a problem. And that's why Gandhi rightly said, truth is the highest of all gods. You have to value truth as the highest of all gods. Unless you do that, you won't be able to find truth. Because if you have different gods telling you different things, then you have no basis for truth. And that's why, we have a problem when people make laws, about jurisprudence, when people make laws of a land, they cannot accept that kind of a foundation. They have to, have an understanding of a monotheistic worldview to come up with laws. I'll give you an example. When you make laws for a land, if one God says stealing is okay, and if another God says stealing is not okay, or if one God says polygamy, having many wives or many husbands is okay, and another God says, that's not right, you have to have monogamy. How do you decide laws for a land even? So as in nation builders, you cannot even think of having those kind of a worldview when you build a nation or even make laws. So it's important whether you don't accept it or whether you accept it or not, whether you believe it or not. When you make or do things that are practical in life that are really important, you cannot have that kind of a worldview. Same is true of a judge. Think of a judge making a judgment, right? What if he says truth is relative? He learned in philosophical schools and universities and came up with this idea that truth is relative. How do you actually pass a judgment? Because the culprit is always going to argue that he is innocent, and always, some people plead guilty, but usually. So you have to have a worldview of truth to make even a judgment, to pass a judgment on someone. Like I said, to decide what is good and bad, you need to have a worldview of truth. Unless you have that kind of an idea, you will not be able to decide what is good, what is bad. And C.S. Lewis rightly said this: if you do not have a standard, which he calls God, right, the standard, the truth as the standard, then you do not have a basis to decide what is good, what is bad, what is better, what is best. Everything will be the opinion of different people. So I hope that answers your question indirectly, because I don't want to, I want to be sensitive to your beliefs and practices. But to have these things that are important and practical in our life, like laws, judgments, decisions on what is good and bad, you need to have an idea of one God being the truth, the highest of all truths. Okay? Hope that answers your question sufficiently. Thank you. Very good question. Yes, please.
Thank you, sir, for your excellent deliberation. But don't you think that basically truth is within us? Because we decide which one is truth, which one is bad, which one is evil or good, honesty and dishonesty. Basically, majority, though the majority, the view given by the majority may not be the truth, but all the religions, all the leaders of the world in the different times whom we are following, all the literatures, what we have read throughout the years, they have said that from them, what we have imbibed, that whether we are going to decide which one is truth and not, and it is decided by the majority. And basically, if you pick one of the religion and say XYZ, there are so many religions. So who is going to decide that which one is truth? Because majority we decide in a country depending upon the socio-economic condition, depending upon the philosophy of that particular land, that which one is to be imbibed and which one is not to be imbibed. So basically truth is within us. We are deciding which one is good or not. If you ask one of the kind-hearted man that what he is supposed to do, then the answer will be something. And if you ask Osama bin Laden, though he is not there, that what is truth and what he is supposed to do, then the answer will be different. And the disciples, the followers of Osama bin Laden or Hitler, whatever they will presume, that they will consider him or her as a god and whatever he has said. Basically, that is why it is a very need of hour, as Sarah has also said and seconded, and that is why value-added education is to be imparted, and that has to be spreaded. But still the question is unanswered, that what we believe, whether it is truth or not, and there is always a divided opinion. If you see one section of the people, they will say this is truth, and another section will always refute that. So what is your comment on that?
Thank you. Thanks for that question and your comments too. Now, I may not agree with everything you stated, because according to your own statement, you have, your opinion of truth, and I can have my own. That's what you, basically believe. But here's the problem with that. I gave you you gave an example, of course, of Hitler and, Osama bin Laden and all. I also gave you an example of Gandhiji and Godse. Now, if you do not have a basis for truth or a standard to decide which one is good, we have the same problem. Whether Gandhi was good or Godse was good. Right? So something in us tells, if you are normal, that Godse was wrong. So that is what we call the law of common sense. Now, if you deny that common sense, and there are people who deny that common sense, that's reality, right? Then we have to kind of come to an agreement that that side is wrong, right? That's where we make the judgments. Now, if you don't have a standard, we are lost, like you said. We will not be able to make that decision. Now, thankfully, we have that common sense. Most people have. Now, it doesn't mean that we always make right decisions as majority. Now, that's why Gandhi himself said, even if you are one in your opinion and true, the majority doesn't matter. And I'll give you examples of that. There was a time in the history of mankind when majority thought that the earth was flat. Right? That didn't make the earth flat. I can think, I can take a 1 rupee coin, the example of the conductor you gave, right? I can take a 1 rupee coin, get on a bus, and give it to the conductor and say, here is a 10 rupee coin. And the conductor says, no, it's a 1 rupee coin. No, say, I believe it is 10 rupee. I deeply believe it is 10 rupees. I sincerely believe it is 10 rupees. And, it doesn't change the truth. You can believe anything about anything. And that's why I said about Jesus too. Jesus made claims. You are free to believe, write him off as a liar or as a lunatic, and you only basically 3 options. And when you think about truth, that's why I said there are so many people who have taught so many things about truth, but the thing about Christ was he was not teaching about truth. He claimed to be the truth itself, or the highest God of all gods. And again, it's a freedom. There's no force. You can decide, but you have only 3 choices. He was either a liar or a lunatic, or he was what he claimed to be. Now, you cannot have the opinion that everyone can have a view of their own truth. Then we live in a world of contradiction. We will not be able to make a judgment. The court of law cannot operate. The basis on which law functions cannot be applied in that kind of a way. So even though in India, we kind of, there's an understanding that truth is relative. When it comes to the matters of law or court, we are not relatives, we are absolutists. We believe that there is a standard. If there is no standard, we cannot make judgment and put people in prison because they did what is right in their view. Good question, though.
No, probably you have misunderstood my comment.
Okay.
Basically, I was not saying that. I was saying, though some people might have some different opinion, which the majority will think that it is not a good, it is an evil thing, and it is not a truth. That means, whatever we may say it is a spiritual thing, we may say it is a God, it is voice of God, but ultimately, the majority of the people, they are the decider, majority not in bad sense, that what should be the values and what are the things should be inculcated in us and within the next generation. So that is the most important thing, and that is why the law stands. That is in that notion the things basically operate, and there is some variation from country to country, of course, but we all condemn Adolf Hitler or Osama bin Laden and their policies, majority of their policies, and that is why we are discussing about Gandhiji is not about God's sake. And there is probably the unanimity that unanimously we can decide, though somebody may differ, that Godse was, whatever Godse did was right, but we are not supporting that. So truth is, though it is not an absolute thing, but it says that God is within us. Because whatever we presume that God has said was probably said by some of the men with the highest stature, or who is blessed with not only the highest level of intelligent quotient but also spiritual and emotional quotient. That I was really wanted to impress upon.
Okay. Great. Thanks for that clarification. I also want to make one clarification about what you said. Majority do decide sometimes what should be right for a community, but like Gandhi said, doesn't mean that they are right. And when you think about making law in this country, it was not based on majority. Basically, Ambedkar wrote down the law based on what he thought was right, based on his worldview, right? He didn't ask majority, what do you think? How many wives one person can have? He didn't look for majority to decide what the law should say, right? So those kind of things, that things of value is not based on majority. It's based on the knowledge that we have, like you said, the God in us or the revelation in us, the consciousness, the truth in us. That kind of gives you an idea. And if you override that, look for majority, we might actually end up somewhere else. We don't know how those kind of things are right in place. Thanks for the clarification. I think that's good enough, right, Janice? Thank you all. Thanks for participating. Thanks for listening. Really appreciate that. All right? Over to Janice.
If you have time, it's your call.
We still have time. You have any more questions? I think it's on the floor. Thank you, Dr. Sandeep, for putting up so beautifully very important questions of life. Dr. Sandeep is at the North Bengal Medical College there, and we highly appreciate your questions. And even from the floor from here, from the Olivier School, we had questions coming up. Thank you so very much. We had Dr. Vashti asking question from the rear end, and Dr. Colonel Saab asking. Any more questions, please? You're open. My friend is here, Tenzing. He said it's wonderful. This is so great. You're doing it. Thank you, brother. Any more questions? We still have a bit of a time. कोई और सवाल आपके जहन में है जिसको आप रखना मांगते हैं और इनसे सवाल कर सकते हैं? अभी इनको सवाल पकड़ के सवाल का जवाब ढूंढ सकते हैं. थैंक यू.
I'm glad my son is not here.
Good evening, sir. Sir, thank you for the wonderful session, sir. We got to know a lot, many things. I would like to continue, or rather extend the question with what sir said. Like, post events, it is very easy for us to decide what is right. Like maybe now we can easily say that maybe Adolf Hitler was wrong, Godse was wrong, that way. But at present, when like sir was trying to say, his followers was relating that Hitler was correct. Yeah. In the same way, maybe something after the event has taken place, we can try to figure it out like this was truth or this was wrong. But at that moment, when the people were believing, let's say the earth was flat, so for them that was the truth. Now let's say right now there is a war going on between Israel and Palestine. Now in that case, now how do I say what is right, what is wrong? Maybe after 10 years down the line, I will be able to tell that they were right, they were wrong, something like that. But at present, how do I define like what is the truth and what is right?
I'm sorry, can you just make your question like short? Because
Yeah.
you told about so many things. So
My point of feeling, what I'm trying to say is, post the events, like let's say after something has happened, then we are able to say that yes, this was right or this was wrong. Like I can say maybe Hitler was wrong, Godse was wrong. But at present, like let's say taking the example of the war between Israel and Palestine. In that case, how do I say like who is right, who is wrong? For me, then what should be the truth?
okay, so your question is before something is concluded or happens,
Yes.
how do we decide, right?
Yes.
That's very important. Good question. I just want to clarify. That's why in my speech I said truth needs to be foundational. We don't decide what is true after something happens. We decide what is true and what is right before we take a step. Okay, so our actions should be based on truth as the foundation, and it's based on that we decide what is good and what is good to do. For example, are you the camel? Okay, as sir was telling, when we get into a situation where you have a choice to do something bad or something right, we see what is the truth and what is good, and then make a decision that is beneficial for everyone and what is right in the view of everyone, right? Now, when we have situations like war and all, we are responding to what has happened, you're right, and those are just opinions, right? We are not talking about what is true in that case. So, what I am talking about is, having truth as a foundation of something before we do something, before we decide something, and then to take a step, right? Now, of course, we can comment on what has happened, whether it was right or not. When we talk about war situation, we are not talking about truth there. We are talking about what is right and wrong, right? That's why we have, laws of war, international laws of war, international laws of ethics of war, right? All those things are there. And what is again that? It's based on having a value. If you don't have a value for human being, we will not have, laws of ethics, right? So even those laws of ethics assume that, there's a standard, and we do not have a standard, we cannot have standards of ethics either. So when we think about international laws of ethics, we cannot think about what is right in one country and what is wrong in another country. We are talking about what is acceptable to humanity as a whole, right? So which assumes that there's a standard for everyone that's common, right? So I don't know if I'm necessarily answering your question, but I'm trying to tell you, we are not talking about reacting, we are talking about having truth as a foundation, as a beginning point.
And the truth for one country is different and the truth for the other country is different in that way.
That's why I was telling, you cannot have that. And Gandhi said the same thing true. He said, think about this. If one whole country says the earth is flat, will the earth be flat? Can 2 + 2 be true in one country and false in another country? Right? What about the international laws of ethics? How can you say, okay, this is acceptable for us, we don't care about these international laws of ethics, laws of ethics? You cannot have that, because we assume that there is something that's common to humanity as a whole. Just because we are in a different country doesn't mean, this is something most people don't know. My country, where we live, my country, India, that's my country, right? Now my parents, I was born in 1971, now you know the age, right? Now my parents were born before the independence of India. Most of you don't know that Kerala was a different country until 1952. We had a separate prime minister. Okay, Pattam Thanukulla was the name of our prime minister. Now, just because we were in a different country then, will we have different truth in that country? Will 2 + 2 be any different in that country? And will the truth change? Or let's say in Kerala, in those countries, it was okay to kill. Okay, it's not true. I'm just giving an example, right? Just because we change, our status from being a different country to joining with the Indian Union, will the truth change with that? If you have the idea that you can have different truth for different countries, then what about when countries merge or get divided? There'll be a merging of truth and truth changes. That means there's no real truth. Truth keeps changing, right? So that means we have no foundation. We are lost to design, lost to make decisions as we like. Jodhpur. How many of you have visited Jodhpur? Where is Jodhpur? Right in the middle of Rajasthan. When Jodhpur became a country, a part of India, 1962. It was a different country in the middle of India, and not by war. They became, just like Kerala joined with the Indian Union, Jodhpur joined with the Indian Union, 1962. Did their truth change? No, truth doesn't change because you become a part of this country or that country. Truth is the same for everyone. And that's what Gandhi said too. Even if you are one, even if the rest of the whole world believes something different, truth is truth. And I agree with Gandhi on that. Thanks, bro.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Here, people who are here, all are eager very much to know the truth. So why they are listening your speech and you very beautifully, deliberately and speaking, and your discourse is very good. Now one thing that truth is very beautiful thing, and Jesus told it that it is the heaven. So Jesus told that nobody can see the kingdom of heaven unless he is born of spirit. So if you elaborate it, if you disclose it, if you explore it to some extent, I think audience will enjoy.
Well, I already talked about the claims that Jesus made, so I think that's good enough. But what you said is, true. Jesus said those things. I think the comments were already made on that. So, but thank you for those comments. I wouldn't want to explore. I told you he made claims. There are three options you have, and I think it's not a good idea to go further down the road. But thank you for that suggestion.
Actually, it was in John's speech in the chapter of John.
Yeah.
You can find this.
Yeah. What you said is true. He made that claim, and you said it, so I don't have to repeat it. That's what I mean. So, everybody heard what you said.
Just one question.
Yes.
Earlier on during your lecture, you compared the lives of Mother Teresa and Princess Diana, and concluded that most people would say that Mother Teresa had a better life. Can you explain the foundations for your belief in that statement?
Okay. Well, a tough question. That's kind of a philosophical question, right? Now, I did not really say that Mother Teresa had a better life. I said all the students in the class said that, right? When that question was asked. And I said, that is based on a natural revelation that is in us, helping us to understand that the real beauty is in goodness. So how do we decide something is of value? Beauty in the, when in Indian philosophy, when we say Satyam, Shivam, Sundaram, the word Sundaram is not talking about actual beauty, it's talking about value. In the same way in Greek philosophy, when the Greek philosophers talk about truth, goodness and beauty, they are not talking about beauty of a person, they are talking about beauty of inner life, the quality of life. So we are talking about quality there. Now, so the question is, how do we decide what is good, what is of quality, right? So back to the same thing. How do we decide if anything is good or bad, right? Like C.S. Lewis said, if I give you a slap, how do we decide it is good or bad? Can you have an opinion that's good for you and it's good for me? I mean, bad for you, good for me? No, we decide those kind of things based on the revelation that we have about truth. And if we do not know that, then we cannot decide what is good. Now, if we just like your question poses, if we will not be able to decide what life was better, whether Mother Teresa's or Diana's, then we do not know what is of value. We cannot decide what kind of a life will be a better life for us to follow and for our children to follow. What kind of example we set before them and tell them what is of a better value in your life as you pursue your life, your goals, you set your standards, right? Those things should be based on goodness. So that's why we have that order set by the philosophers: truth, goodness, and beauty, or quality, or value. So that value needs to come from what is good. Just like the question came about integrity, right? If we do not have integrity, our life will not produce something of value, because we value a life that matches the statement of that person. So if we do not have that basis that helps us to decide what is of value, which is goodness, then we cannot tell what is of value. For example, a person, when we look at a person, what are the good things we look at a person? When we say somebody is good, what do we say? Are we talking about the muscles of that man? And if you're talking about a man, the 6-pack or 5-pack or Shah Rukh Khan's 7-pack or whatever it is, are we talking about that when we say somebody is good? Or when we say, somebody is beautiful, are we talking about the best actress in Bollywood movie these days when somebody is good? No, we are talking in our deep heart, we know we are talking about some person's quality when we say somebody is good. That's what I meant about Mother Teresa and Diana too. We decide somebody is good or not based on the goodness of that person, the fruit of that person, the quality of that person. In fact, when our famous actress and Miss World or Miss Universe, Aishwarya Rai won the contest of, what did she win? Miss World or Miss World? Right, Miss World, right? The last question that was asked to her was, and to our contestants was, what's the person that you love the most and is alive now? Okay? And her question, her answer was, this happened after the death of Mother Teresa. Her answer was Mother Teresa. And everybody sitting there thought, oh my, she got it wrong. Mother Teresa is not alive. The question from the jurist was, who is the person that is alive and you love the most? And her answer was Mother Teresa after the death of Mother Teresa. So they asked for an explanation. Why did you say that name? Mother Teresa is dead. And she said, she's dead for many, but she lives in my heart. And she won. That is smart. Now, why? Whether she believed or not in reality, that's a different issue, right? But he won the heart of everyone. Now, why? Because, again, we have a common understanding that there was something special about Mother Teresa's life because she did what was good. And that's why she was respected. Her life was valued by people like Aishwarya Rai. So we really, that's why even if you accept or not, we value what is good. Like we have things going on, videos coming on our WhatsApp and all, right? Or somebody helping somebody on the street to cross the road somewhere, just helping a blind man to cross the road. Or feeding a poor. Why do we think that is good? Because we have an understanding of what is really good and we value that. That's why we pass those videos around and watch those things. Thanks, but for raising that question. Thank you. Well, Jana says it's over, so it's over.
Thank you very much, Dr. Raj. I'm sure you are answered well. He did bring in reasons behind his answers, and I hope he has been able to justify those answers to each one of you who presented your questions. Some of you may still have questions. I suggest that you write them down and slip it in to us at the registration desk. You also have feedback forms at the table. What I would request you is, would you kindly fill them right now for us? It will be good to understand how have you felt about these two talks and the whole environment here. Would you like us to host such events in the future? If yes, then what kind of events would you like us to host? So please fill them up. We would actually want them to be done after the dinner, but since we've had few rounds of chicken tikkas and others, I hope you will be able to fill them. We thank all of you to have come here. I would like to ask Donald to come forward and give the vote of thanks. Donald is an entrepreneur and is representing the Siliguri Christian Business and Professionals team.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for being here. I wanted to say, I just read this quote and it kind of spoke to me. It talks about telling somebody about the truth is an act of love. So we understand truth, from today's talk, we really understand that it's connected to, beauty, and it also has, so it sets up, explaining the truth or talking about truth is an act of love. So that's where we would like to start. And today's evening has been made possible through the collaboration and the efforts of the Crossroad Institute and the Siliguri Christian Business and Professionals team. I hope this was an enlightening experience to all of you. And I would like to also thank Mr. Kevin for his presentation on servant leadership. I'm sure his insights have left a lasting impact on all of us. And would like to deeply appreciate Dr. Rajesh for the thought-provoking topic of the importance of understanding truth, what truth means. We live at a time where truth is understood to be subjective and relative, and we had a few questions on that, and I understand that this is just the beginning and this is not the end, and I think this sets a stage for us to kind of continue this discussion. So also at the feedback form at the back, if you would like to leave or if you have any questions, you can write those questions down, and we would try our best to point it to the right person, and we'll get a response to you. And it may also help others. And like I said, it's an act of love, so it would really mean a lot to us. And also, let's remember that we must make it a point to strive hard to seek and understand what is truth. And let us not be like the flat earthers who would bluntly say that even God doesn't know what earth looks like or what earth is. Or let us not be like the Socrates disciple who didn't understand the importance of verifying the statement, whether it's good news or whether it's beneficial to anybody. So let's not just bluntly, say statements and make those claims which we just received. So let's think about it. And also, at the end of our life, we would like people to understand and talk about us as a life which was lived beautifully and seeking for the truth. Finally, I would like to thank each and every one of you who's present here, because it wouldn't have been a success, this evening wouldn't have been successful without you being here on an invitation. So I hope that this evening was eventful, was enlightening, and like I said, this is just the beginning of us and a relationship that we all will be able to have this sort of events where we'll be able to speak to one another, open our minds and heart, and with no biases or no we'll just go ahead and we'll be able to exchange ideas and be able to come to a better conclusions. So, yeah, I'll give this time back to Janice and she continues the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Donald. Well, we have dinner laid outside. It's a buffet dinner. Please enjoy the dinner. I hope you filled the form. Please take time to fill the forms. It will be important for us. I would like to close this time, like everybody prays. I would like to close this time in prayer, thanking the eternal God for this opportunity that we have, and thanking the eternal God for the wonderful food that is there outside. So would you join with me in praying by closing your eyes, and if possible, join your hands as well. Eternal God, we come to you and want to thank you for this evening. We thank you that you have blessed us in manifold ways, in ways allowing us to have the truth in our lives and to think upon it, to dialogue with it, to engage with it. We thank you for keeping our families also well. We thank you for our time here, and we thank you for the food that is outside. While we thank you for the food that we are enjoying, we think of those who are not as fortunate as we are right here, right now. We pray that in your rich bounty, you would meet their needs. We thank you for the people working there to help us have this lovely meal. We pray for your blessings over them. We thank you for our guest speakers and people who questioned and people who are sitting here. Bless us all. In your name we pray. Amen. Thank you very much. Please have a time to talk with each other, to network. It's a beautiful time. सबसे खूबसूरत मौका है ये हम सबका कि हम एक दूसरे से बातचीत करें, नेटवर्किंग करें. आपके साथ में कई सारे फ्लायर्स भी होंगे, एक दूसरे के फ्लायर्स देखें, रखें, एंगेज करें. मुलाकातें करें. We just want to thank you. We missed out on thanking the PA system. This was very beneficial, you know. This is a beautiful PA system supplied by us, by Mr. Jason, who runs the school here, and we thank